the last new moon of 2025. Today we're going to discuss the new moon in Sagittarius at 28 degrees, how this opens a portal as we move into a exact square between Venus and Saturn, and then step into the winter solstice and Capricorn season, which brings with it a healing, gritty geometry of a T-square involving the moon, Jupiter, and Chiron. So let's get into it. Hello, I'm Danielle Knapp. I am a certified astrologer and also a mental health therapist. And in this space, in astrotherapy, we work with the planets and points in our natal chart and collectively, and use this as a trailhead in to understand ourselves on a deeper level so that we can live more open-hearted and more authentic lives. And I'm excited to get into it today. And of course, as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment. Any action you take towards this video helps this little channel move and get some more exposure so it can find people who will find it useful and supportive in their lives. Thank you. Okay, so without further ado, let's start with the new moon happening on Friday, December 19th at 7:45 p.m. Central Time. So make adjustments for your time zone. And because this is in the evening, depending on where you're located, this might fall on the early morning hours of the 20th. And so as always, when we have a new moon, we have the moon on top of the sun. We have this merging of the internal landscape, the subconscious, unconscious, the emotional territory with our conscious waking mind, which is beautiful. There's lots of opportunity when we have new moons to have such clarity for setting intentions and for really just shining a light in the places that feel dark. And while the new moon is a time of kind of seeing things from a new perspective, like we're far away from it, this is a time where we're planting seeds. Nothing has really grown yet in that space. And so when we're thinking about a new moon in Sagittarius at 28 degrees, so if you have anything at 28 degrees of Sagittarius, this is hitting you very personally. And also, if you have anything at 28 degrees Pisces, Gemini, or Virgo, this is also going to be interacting in a call to action type of way with your chart. And then if you have anything at 28 degrees of Aries or Leo, there's going to be some supportive harmonious flow. And of course, the other 28 degrees, we've got sextiles, which is 60 degrees. That's also going to be a productive conversation happening between this new moon and whatever planet you have at 28 degrees of another zodiac. And so we're talking about mutable fire, and we think about this Sagittarius script and what goes on in that mansion. And when we're looking at that, we're thinking about how there's this seeking truth, right? This kind of idea of like thinking about how the individual fits into the broader picture of this cosmic dance that we're doing out here with, what is truth? Where are we going? What about these great mysteries? What happens after we die? Like, all the philosophy, all of that's all very Sagittarian. And we know it's the centaur shooting the arrow to the sky, seeking truth, seeking knowledge, really getting that big, wide picture about things that are happening and really enjoying that, feeling a lot of energy around that. It's mutable, so there's a lot of activity. It's busy, it's coming and going, and it's ready for the next thing always. And so something with Sagittarius that's interesting, especially when we're talking about the moon being here, is that Sagittarius tends to almost feel like enthusiastic. It is ruled by Jupiter, so enthusiasm is available. Enthusiastic about like emotions or even like triggers that come up because it's like, ooh, what do I get to discover? And utilizing emotions, especially charged emotions, as a trailhead into understanding oneself and seeking greater knowledge and truth through that. And so it's interesting because there's not a lot of, it's like a stepping stone, like a catalyst, which is beautiful. Like, what do I do with this? How do I work with this? And there's a real speed about that, a real efficiency. Also, sometimes it can mean that there's sometimes a shadow for compassion for other people who have different moons who might not move through it in the same way, that maybe need to take their time. An earth moon that needs to really kind of work on something with a real kind of steady endurance, or a water moon that just needs to go deeper and deeper into it. Whereas fire can be like, well, what are we doing? Like, come on. let's go. What do you need to learn about this? And let's move on. And so there is a great speed and efficiency available when we have this new moon kind of coming together with the sun, and there's this opportunity for a real congruence between the consciousness and the unconscious and kind of coming together in this merging on a new moon. So this is happening at 28 degrees of Sagittarius. So towards the end, which if you remember, our last new moon was at 28 degrees Scorpio. So there's something kind of striking that we're at that 28 degree mark again. So as we just mentioned, like if you have planets at 28 degrees, like this could be like a revisiting this from a different type of energy, from mutable fire, from fixed water. So I feel like there's something really beautiful that happens though on the chart when we look at the chart of this new moon and then we flip into the next day. And there's this kind of elegant transitional time happening between the new moon to the winter solstice 2 days later. And so let's talk about what happens on that middle day in between. So the day after the new moon, we have an exact square between Venus and Saturn. And this is going to be at 25 degrees Sagittarius and 25 degrees Pisces. And a square, as a reminder, it's a little gritty. It's a call to action. It's usually there's some pressure. There's something happening that's not too comfortable. So we make a change because we're not comfortable. Because that's how we humans love to do it. Although, I've told y'all before, I'm always bargaining with the universe. Like, I will learn through love and light, I promise. But when do I actually do my most growing? When I'm uncomfortable and something needs to change. So when we're looking at this square, this is interesting because we know Saturn teaches us through withholding, through delays, through lack. There's a real sobering effect that Saturn has when he makes contact with a planet. And it is the father archetype. It's the disciplinarian. It is the teacher, and asks us to work hard, wants us to learn the hard way often. And then we have Venus, which again is our heart space, how we are processing our emotions. This is going to be about our relationships, especially femme relationships. This is going to be how we attract, manifest, draw things towards us, how we receive. She's also called the money planet. She is also concerned with harmony, balance, justice. These are all things that she rules. And so when we think about those kind of keywords and we put them together with Saturn, we're looking at, possibly some lessons around giving and receiving with no strings attached, which can be a very fascinating self-inquiry to explore for yourself. Are you able to give a gift without strings being attached, without someone needing to express gratitude for that gift? What does that feel like? Are you able to receive a gift without feeling like you have to do something in response to receiving this gift, just being full, wide open, receiving? It's a skill set. I don't think a lot of us maybe naturally have this idea of giving and receiving without strings attached. So often, just in quiet, subtle ways, we have learned over our lives that there's obligation that comes with receiving, which can make us so uncomfortable that we shut down and we don't want to receive anything, and we're no longer open to that. And there's a real loss that comes with that too. And so thinking about, what is this idea of giving and receiving without strings attached, which is a big one. It comes in so early. I don't know if any of y'all were required to write thank you notes. And if you were a child writing thank you notes, how did you feel about writing those thank you notes versus what expressing authentic, organic gratitude, what that looks like, and how different that might feel than a performative, couple sentences. Not that there's anything wrong with thank you notes. I'm not condemning, saying, oh no, thank you notes are need to be canceled. That's not that. It's just the energy that comes into it. And obligation is a really dense, heavy energy. And this idea of someone wanting to gift something to you, and you being able to receive that open-heartedly without any part showing up of oh no, now I got to get them something, or I have to do something in response to this, or I feel indebted in some way to someone. And some people do expect an exchange, right? That they do expect something to come back their way. They do expect you to acknowledge the gift. They do expect you maybe to write a thank you or to get them a gift or get them, later on or repay them in some way. But you also, in your sovereignty, get to choose how you engage with that energy. That you can clear that as you receive something. But I do feel like the meat and potatoes of this work is learning to give without strings attached. And that tends to open us up to being able to receive without strings attached, to be able to just send something from your heart space and then release it to the other. And I don't play with that. Play with that if it resonates. Something else with the square between Venus and Saturn, father figure stuff coming up. Pay attention if some of that is up on the table for review in some way. This kind of awkwardness around when we talk about giving and receiving, even like affection is something that can come up with this. As we think about like Saturn as the father withholding affection, withholding love. People who have this on their natal chart sometimes have had that experience where they don't ever remember, sitting on their father's lap or receiving a hug from their father or didn't even have a present father. That's another way that a Venus square Saturn can show up when we look at Saturn as the literal father, but it doesn't always have to be the literal father. It's more of that archetypal energy. And in its highest octave, we think about the fathering energy, and that's the energy that pushes us a little bit, that says, go do it. And you're like, I can't do that. There's no way I can do that. And this energy says, yeah, you can. Give it a try. Go do it. And then you go out there, you're shaking in your boots and you do it. And then you're like, oh my God, I did the thing. And you turn around and Saturn's like, yeah, no, I always knew you could. And so there's almost this like temporary holding of your confidence when you lose it. And then when you do the thing and you realize, wow, I can do that, then Saturn gives you back your confidence plus some, because now you've had this lived experience of overcoming some sort of challenge or obstacle that you just thought you couldn't do. And so that is the beautiful way that Saturn is in service to our lives. He gets a really bad rap because of that idea of teaching us through lack, through withholding, through delays. I mean, how frustrating when you're expecting something to come in and then it doesn't. It's like, what is going on? And so there's a frustration there and a grittiness, but there's also an endurance that is born in these spaces that we learn how to endure. And there's persistence, there's discipline, there's devotion. These are things that we learn due to our Saturn lessons. So this is happening on this day. Some other little keywords coming up, like love and money, love and time. Saturn also governs time. So paying attention to some of that. Feeling unloved, that's something that can come up. It can be hard to enjoy ourselves when they're like almost like we have to, if it's on the natal chart, it's like a developmental process of learning to enjoy ourselves. And so pay attention to that on Saturday, the 20th, if some of that is coming up, because there's also the reality that I've talked about Saturn before as the like fuck around and find out planet. There's also the reality that you could be going to the principal's office, Saturn, and he could be saying, way to go. You did everything you needed to do. You're graduating. Here's your diploma. Here's 1,000 gold stars. Here are all your rewards, because nobody rewards like Saturn rewards either. But he does work us, right? He will stretch us. He will wring us. He will really, really put some pressure on us. And then we get to reap the rewards of moving through some challenging things. So that also could be coming up, but this like looking back and going, whoa. Venus especially, because as we know, she had her conjunction with Mercury a couple times back in the late degrees of Scorpio. And so that was the mind and the heart kind of coming together. And so there could be, she could have a fresh new perspective. She could be feeling like it's time, like I'm ready. And I almost see it as like when we're stepping into this portal from the new moon and then we're in this space with Saturn, the teacher, going, how'd you do? What went on? Like, what'd you learn? And where are you at now? How are you different given the journey that you've been on? So let's think about our heart space, how we're different in this moment. And it's got a real, if you follow the tarot, it's got a real Six of Swords feeling to it. I mean, this is the ferryman on the boat. And it's almost like there's this opportunity to move across the waters, the emotional waters, with a guide. there's someone, be on the lookout for whether an internal guide is coming up for you, like a part of you that's like using intellect to help guide you through something as you're leaving the past behind, as we're leaving 2025 behind. Also, be on the lookout of a literal person coming in as a guide, or a new spirit guide coming in. I mean, I know the spiritual community is so excited about Three Eye Atlas, which will be arriving on winter solstice, or coming as close as making its closest pass by Earth. And so perhaps that's the guide that's arriving. I do not know. I am so curious and open to see how all of that unfolds. But there's just something that just feels exciting about this too. So while Saturn tends to have a real serious, sobering effect, kind of like a Mr. Buzzkill at times, there's also that like achievement piece, like the marking of success that he can offer us. So let's lean towards that, right? Instead of versus more work. It's like we are going through that last squeeze, this last squeeze of 2025, as we move to complete this year 9, a year of completions, a year of endings, a year of shedding, the year of the snake. So we'll be thinking about that. And then let's move towards the winter solstice and talk about the start of Capricorn season. So the winter solstice is always at the beginning of Capricorn season, when the sun moves to 0 degrees Capricorn. And this marks the longest night. So this is the night that we light the candles, that we create our own light, because the dark is long. And there's always something very magical about this. And the winter solstice is a time that has been recognized, I think I read like from 10,500 BC. I mean, as human beings, this has been a poignant moment in the calendar and the seasons since forever, let's just say, since we've been around. And so, there's all sorts of different ways that we can honor the dark. And the lighting of candles, I think, is beautiful, because the thing that the winter solstice really symbolizes is hope. The hope that the light will return. In Yule, it's all about father, son coming back, which is so interesting because, just a note, Saturn rules Capricorn. Saturn is the father archetype. And with Yule and some of the pagan rituals, father, son is what that is referenced as. And then there's also if you're familiar with hopefully I say this right, the Saturnalia, Saturnalia, and it was a Roman festival that happened on the winter solstice honoring Saturn. And it was when like enslaved people were free for the celebration. It was like an overturning of rules, because Saturn is all about rules and structure and safety and all of those things. So there was this real celebration of overturning the rules and kind of freedom, so to speak, during the winter solstice. And the thing that stands out to me about the winter solstice is that entire day, so this is happening on Sunday, the 21st, the entire day, because we know the moon moves pretty quickly, so it's traveling several degrees each day of a zodiac. So you can look at the morning chart and it's going to look different than the afternoon chart. But the degrees that the moon is traveling in Capricorn on Sunday actually enacts a T-square all day long, depending on your orbs. I can look and see when it will be exact, but the orbs are, if you do a 5 degree orb, all day long, the moon will be activating a T-square, making an opposition to Jupiter over at 22 degrees of Cancer, and then both squaring Chiron at 22 degrees. And so we know that when Chiron is involved, it is a healing opportunity. And it is a wound. It's tapping on a wound. It is activating, and it often there's a tenderness to it. It's like pressing on a bruise sometimes. I mean, sometimes it can feel like ripping open a wound, and it's like I'm raw and exposed in this space. But there is something that is there's always something healing that comes from it. That's always the outcome of aspects that happen with Chiron. Okay, so I'm looking right now. The moon will be at exactly 22 degrees at 7:05 p.m. And so that's when the T-square with 22 degrees retrograde, I didn't say that, retrograde Jupiter and retrograde Chiron at 22 degrees Aries, Cancer, the moon at Capricorn. So when we have this big red triangle on the chart, there is, and with at the apex we have Chiron. So again, look at your own charts. If you have anything at 22 degrees, it's probably having some sort of conversation with this T-square, 22 degrees of any of the zodiacs. And so with squares, there's a call to action. So we've got the moon, the internal landscape, squaring the wounded healer asteroid. And then we also have Jupiter, who exaggerates and expands everything, makes everything bigger, opposing the moon and squaring Chiron. So an opposition is a polarization often. The thing with Jupiter over in Cancer, there's a real sensitivity to Jupiter in Cancer. It's very family oriented. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, so he's very resourced. He's really big and bold, so to speak, in Cancer. And, you know, this can be bringing up family matters. This can be bringing up childhood stuff. Wounding from childhood could be coming up, especially with that square with Chiron. That's what really stands out. But there's, you know, cardinal water is all about the rushing river of emotions. And then we have kind of that stoic moon over in Capricorn that's kind of wants to ground it, wants to keep it rational, like can be a little serious, ruled by Saturn. So that's a moon that works hard. It's not its most comfy place to be in Capricorn. And so, but it's also a real, there's a real rational, grounded, kind of like making it solid, which is hard to do with emotions, but that is a skill set that the Capricorn moon really has. It can create kind of a container of sorts for these swirly emotions. And so we have this opposition happening between Jupiter and the moon. So there can be kind of a battle, like a sensitive Jupiter over here, like, I'm in the rushing river of emotions, and the moon going, make it real, ground it down. I don't want to be in this rushing rapids. This is out of control. This is too much. Tell me what's real so I know what I can do with it. That happening, seesaw happening between those two. Then we have the square, both of them, call to action to Chiron at 22 degrees Aries. So Jupiter has been in this square with Chiron for a while. So they both are, you know, Jupiter's kind of he's been doing his retrograde, so he's slowing down. He's not moving that fast, and Chiron also is not moving that fast. So this square has been enacted. I can look it up exactly for you, but definitely over a month. So this is something that's been coming up. Like, this is something that you've been working on for a while. And then this new formation with the moon kind of coming into an opposition just for this day. You know, this is going to fall apart as the moon later on in the evening gets deeper into Capricorn. This whole geometry falls apart, besides for that square between Jupiter and Chiron. That will hold for a while longer. But there's something new that comes in, like a flash in the pan kind of emotions that can come up in this. And again, opportunity for healing, you know, a new access to a deeper part within yourself that can come up. Again, I'm thinking about the Six of Swords and the ferryman. Who is the ferryman that you picked up the day before? Who's guiding you? Where's your guidance right now as you move into this geometry, as we begin the long dark night? And again, holding on to the magic of the winter solstice, that when we light our twinkle candles and there is this kind of shimmering, glittery effect that comes on, we're lighting the Yule log, we are creating our own light. There's something really, really beautiful about the symbolism that comes up in that you always have a light within you. This little light of mine, that's always within you, right? Your true essence, your true self energy, that never goes away. Sometimes, you know, I see it as kind of the sunshine too, which we're talking about the sun and the sun coming back to us. But this idea of like some days are real cloudy, some seasons of life are real cloudy, but we never doubt that the sun has gone away. when we have clouds. We know it's there. It's just behind all those clouds. And the same is true for us. When we are having a hard season or a hard year, I know there's been a lot of grief, a lot of heartbreak, a lot of turmoil, a lot of release and completion and endings in 2025. It can feel dark, but we know that the weather changes and those clouds thin and they disperse and the sunshine comes back, and we can create that space, and then the sun just naturally comes forward. And so this opportunity, when things around us are dark or when we're in the longest night of the year, we can tune into that internal light and we can focus on that, and that provides faith and trust in the unfolding of life and whatever is coming next for us. It's also a time of silence and pause as we get more still in the winter season. It is the season of going within, and there's so much opportunity in this time. And so I hope that you mark this time in some way with your own personal ritual. There's so many beautiful rituals available out there. If you just Google Winter Solstice ritual, you will find so many different options. So find one that really sings to you, that excites you, that makes you want to get involved with connecting with our seasons, connecting with this earth, connecting with the sun and the moon and the planets, and ultimately yourself, because we are nature. We are part of all of this. We are all connected. And the more we can feel that, the more we feel held, the more trusting and open we are to this world, to other people, to move through this world with love and compassion and consideration for others, for this earth, for the animals, for all of the things, right? And so find one, find a ritual that excites you and do it. You know, honor it. Take that time, mark that time, make it sacred, and work with the energy that's available, because there's a real healing energy, even if it's a little uncomfy for a second. Remember, just a second though. The moon is moving so fast that T-square is just gonna lock in, and then it's just gonna fade away. So flash in the pan kind of opportunity, which will pass you by. It could pass you by if you're not paying attention, and another one will come later if that happens, so do not stress about that. But if you want to work with that, there's a lot of opportunity here. And so, all right, I'll be holding y'all close and wishing you so many blessings and lots of light as we move through the darkest night. Okay, so that completes our journeying through from the new moon to the winter solstice. I hope that this is helpful and it meets you where you're at, and that you're able to glean something that feels supportive in your life from this episode. As always, if you are interested in having your birth chart read, you can book directly through my website at danielleknapp.com. And then if you're in the state of Texas and you're interested in working together therapeutically, my therapy website is startwithintherapy.com. And again, please like, subscribe, share this episode so that it can reach as many people as possible who can find it helpful. I love coming into this space, doing long form video to be able to go deeper with these concepts with you all. And I'm just hoping that it feels supportive. The reminder that things are always changing, that we are part of a beautiful unfolding story that is always at play, and the planets help us discover what to expect, how to feel maybe a little more grounded when things get a little chaotic, and also just that reminder of you're exactly where you need to be right now. Okay, wishing you so much love and light, and I'll be back soon.